Everyone, my name's Jax, and in this video we're going to be going over ranking all the origins in Stellaris. And as you can see here, we got the new 4.0.23 update, so you know this is the latest and greatest. So let's go ahead and check out the origins. Just pretend you are making a new empire right here. And as you can see here, we have all the DLC. All the DLC is right here, except Biogenesis. So I want to let you know right now that the bottom two, or the bottom three ones over here, I have not played, so this is more so theory crafting and my impressions based off what I'm seeing on the pop-ups here. Also, another disclaimer is that this is meant for PvE, so mainly against just computers. If you're playing with some friends and you guys are playing against computers, this also applies to it too. But for PvP, the rankings will change because players are just so much more different than computers. And to talk a little bit about each tier, at the S tier, it's the absolutely busted things. It's, you know, no downsides, kind of makes the game a bit too easy. At A tier, this is not, you know, god level choices compared to like Scion or something, but it's still going to be a very strong start, almost borderline busted, but still has some trade-offs in one way or another. B tier, just imagine A tier, but with more penalties or trade-offs, or, you know, the selections aren't as good. At C tier, I would say these are probably the most balanced origins, the ones that, you know, give you some, but also take, but they're not outright giving you such a challenging origin that it's impossible to win by any means, but probably middle of the road in most cases. In D tier, we have the origins that are pretty challenging, but there's still some redeeming qualities to them in one form or another. But still, for most people, you probably wouldn't want to choose these, but unless you're looking for a challenging origin, or it might be more roleplay oriented rather than just being outright challenging. So something to keep in mind. And lastly, for F tier, these are the ones that I personally would never choose. They're just downright bad for you. Like, they're just a really bad origin and it makes the game unnecessarily difficult, or they just have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Let's go ahead and do a quick summary of all the tiers, so that way you know where each one lands, so that you don't have to keep going through the video and trying to find the one that you're talking about or the one that you're looking for. So starting off with F tier, we have Broken Shackles, we have Payback, we have Fear of the Dark, we have Doomsday, we have Post-Apocalyptic, and we have Galactic Doorstep. For the D tier, we have Lost Colony, Common Ground, Remnants, Slingshot to the Stars, and Storm Chasers. For C tier, we have the Knights of the Toxic God, Hard Reset, Resource Consolidation, Clone Army, On the Shoulders of Giants, Subterranean, Here Be Dragons, Under One Rule, Riftworld, Arc Welders, Synthetic Fertility, Treasure Hunters. For B tier, we have Progenitor Hive, Necrophage, Fruitful Partnership, Tree of Life, Void Dwellers, Life Seeded, Imperial Fiefdom, Prosperous Unification, Overtuned, Cybernetic Creed, Primal Calling, and Teachers of the Shroud. At A tier, we have Starlit Citadel, Syncretic Evolution, Mechanist, Ocean Paradise, Calamitous Birth, Hegemon, and Shattered Ring. And lastly, at S tier, we have Evolutionary Predators and Scion. But without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and go down the list, and we'll address each one as it comes up. So let's go ahead and start off with Prosperous Unification. So Prosperous Unification, I rank this as a B tier. And all things considered, there's only pros and no cons to it, which in my opinion, I think this makes it a B tier. The perks themselves are borderline C tier, but the fact that there's no downsides to this pushes it to a B tier. You get more starting pops, you have more districts, and you get a 20-year modifier right here for happiness, amenities, and more resources from your job. It only lasts 20 years, but it helps you early game. It's pretty great. You also get this guaranteed research option, which helps with more unity. I highly suggest this one if you are starting out, because it's so middle of the road and it's not swingy one way or another. This is perfect for people that are just starting the game, so go ahead and hit this one. Moving on to Treasure Hunters. Treasure Hunters, I was going to put this in D tier, but I realized there's only positives to it. Although they're not great ones, they're still good, especially when it comes to the leader perks for the Adventure Spirit. So If we go over here, you have the Adventurous Spirit. You also get the ruler traits here. So Buccaneer for more energy credits when you destroy ships. Trailblazer, you get this stuff right here. Sublight Speed's really nice. Treasure Hoarder, in my opinion, is the winner here. That's just me, though. I think that if you can increase your resource deposit on completing a survey, that's going to be pretty cool. 10% isn't high, which is also why this is ranked in C tier, but it's enough to make a difference, and it can add up, especially if you're surveying tons of systems. The Origin questline could have great potential to pay off if you play through the situation log, but it can take a while to get there, especially when you're fighting the pirates that show up. They could slow you down and take your focus away from other things that you need to focus on. But aside from that, I place a C tier. All positives, but they're weak positives at that. Moving on to Primal Calling. Primal Calling, I'm placing this B tier. This is an interesting one, though, because there's some negatives, like you lose mass districts, but I think the pros outweigh the cons, and what really makes this shine is it's how easy it is to gain the stance modifiers to help your civilization. The modifiers that come with the stances can be pretty strong. So like here, you can change your diplomatic weight. For hunter killers, you can get more unity. And for trophy hunters, you can get big game hunters, which also provide unity and genetic material. And then void conservationists, you also get more diplomatic weight. So there's a lot of different things that you could choose. And I think that's what makes this strong, especially for like unity builds. This personally, to me, feels like a strong start origin, and it could stay strong if you focus your jobs correctly on this origin. And that's not even looking at the other things that we get here. So we can also get planetary modifiers. Again, here we do lose the district, but we also get increased unity and more Wrangler jobs per pop. You also get this unique wildlife ranch, and then as well as these starting researches and gain insight on all these things here. Plus you get these modifiers, but keep in mind these modifiers are mainly meant for your space fauna and your space fauna ships. So it's not really benefiting your empire in general. It's more so for this specific thing in mind. So Storm Chasers, I feel like this one is really difficult to enjoy. Their story doesn't really take off until mid-game, and you have to survive like a ton of cosmic storms, which in itself are not really rewarding. It's just like this random event that just devastates your planet. It can be hard to combat, especially when you lack the technology to combat it. So until you can get that technology and really negate the negative effects, it's kind of like you're just suffering for the sake of it. Because if you look here, cosmic storm appearance chance within borders is 100% increased. Although you get more technology chances appearing in your technology and research options, but that's also taking away from the other technologies that you could be researching to help fight against other civilizations. So it's a give and take, right? But if you can get past all the negatives and you're able to control the movements of storms, it can be fun to use storms against enemies. However, I will say it can be very hard to get here, especially since there's not too many bonuses that are provided here. I mean, the only real thing that you get is the unity from the storm building, and that's pretty much it. So, and that's why I'm placing this one in the D tier. It's not F tier, it's not completely useless or it's not completely making the game hard, but you're not really getting too much from this thing. I'm placing Cybernetic Creed in the B tier. There's only positives, but it locks you into the Cybernetic Ascension path, which isn't a bad thing if you're already wanting to do that. And this is especially good for things like driven simulators. The real chillistic implants from right here. It's really nice. You get buffs to alloys, but you can't be genetically modified. You can see here, it's in red, can't be genetically modified. So you're kind of locked in if you were wanting to change your species a bit or, give them better traits. You can't really do that, but you get more increased research to engineering, more unity, more output, more army damage. A lot of good things, but it does have a bit of pullback. I'm placing Synthetic Fertility into C tier. And the reason why that is, unlike Cybernetic Creed, this gives you an initial population boost. You can see you start with 900 more pops. But there's a big reason for that. And you can see in the penalties, your population is in decline. Also, your traits here cannot colonize planets or be resettled, cannot reproduce naturally. So that's a huge, huge nerf. Like you can't increase your population. The only thing you can do is create robots, which, okay, that can be helpful, but you're pretty much stuck with what you have here. I think this origin is more for those who enjoy challenge or story driven. You need to research a way to repopulate differently, and you can't reproduce naturally. So you're pretty much stuck with this until you figure out the storyline. This origin is obviously forcing you to go the robot route, in my opinion. Otherwise, you can't increase any population, you can't increase resources. So once you get past the storyline and develop it, or you get past the ascension, this scales pretty well in the mid and late game. You just need to get off that early game nerf. I'm placing Arc Welders in C tier. I think this is a good machine tall build, but you need to approach the game a bit differently, as most of your minerals are going to be coming from orbital stations rather than your homeworld. This is an energy-hungry origin, so be prepared to properly pivot your economy when necessary. It does suck that you lose 300 pops at the beginning. As you can see, your penalty, negative 300 pops, and homeworld size is only 15. Your modifiers are really only applying to the megastructure, so it's not really too helpful. Riftworld we place in C tier as well. Do you like anomalies? Do you like gambling? Well, this is pretty much the perfect origin for you, as it basically makes an origin centered around anomalies in the form of checking out astral rifts, as well as archaeological sites. They have some modifiers you can see here. They have the astral exploration speed as 25% increased, and your fail probability is decreased by 50%, which is pretty big. That's a very good thing to have. So if you enjoy astral rifts, this is going to be the one for you. But aside from that, there's not any other modifiers. There's no inherent boons or banes on your populace in general, so you just have a crashed ship that has an interesting storyline, but it'll also net you some nice artifacts, whether they're minor or not, from this archaeological site. But that's why it's C tier. It's not crazy good, it's not crazy bad, it's more so kind of in the middle. Gives you more chance for astral rifts, which you can use to gain those nice little boons, especially that that fleet that you could summon. That's a pretty good thing. Under one rule. So for under one rule, I have this one as C tier. I think this has the potential to be strong, and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, if you just do this, this, and this, it's like, yeah, no, I get it. Like, any origin can be strong if you have a very obtuse build, but you have to select the right outcomes from this storyline in order for it to kind of pay off. Otherwise, you can get destroyed in your own civil war. So really, you have to min-max your outcomes. It can be a higher tier origin due to the bonuses that leaders can get. However, for the majority of people, I think I'm just going to leave this at C tier because it's not strong out the gate, and the fact that you could get destroyed by your own people is kind of crazy. So, moving on to Payback. Payback, this is F tier. I think this is a very challenging origin, and it's got great roleplay, but the downsides are pretty rough. I mean, we're talking 1,000 less population, devastation at 33%, minus 30 habitability, increased upkeep, and planetary costs, which makes this rough. And you tie in the fact that there's a guaranteed advanced AI who's around you. I would only play this if you're looking for a challenge and you want to see the story play out. Otherwise, this is very hard to beat. And it even says at the top, this is a challenging origin. So again, I place this as a F tier. Up next, we got Broken Shackles. This one is also F tier. I think that this is going to have you manage multiple species in planets that are from pre-FTL. This is micromanaging hell. I'm not going to lie. If you like micromanaging, this is going to be for you. But for the average player, this is just going to make things more difficult and unnecessary. So if you're into the high APM, by all means, go for it. But at least the free modifier is nice. You know, you get one additional envoy, you know, increased contact speed and infiltration speed. The contact speed and infiltration speed, those are kind of nuanced, but the envoy is pretty nice. You're going to use that all game. But the other two, not really applicable. I mean, if you look at it here, the penalties are just as big as, if not greater than, the effects. And even your homeworld is not even your own homeworld. That's the crazy part. This reduces your energy, your minerals, and research, which to me it's just a big no. I mean, look at all these negatives that you're going to get. Stellar culture shock. That's, to me, that's too much of a nerf. This is a challenging origin, as you can see. It says at the top, it's a challenging origin. You're also missing some key research here too. You're missing all these, so it can be very difficult to overcome. This is just another challenging origin. So if you want to play this, just know that it's very hard. And another F tier, Fear of the Dark. From a purely numbers standpoint, I don't see the point of this origin, but I do like the story idea. I just think that there's too many negatives for me to fully enjoy it. You start with negative 800 pops, and you have one less research alternative. You also have less recruitable leaders. Yeah, you get, an anomaly chance increase and research, or anomaly research increase, but aside from that, I mean, it's that's the only buff you get. The rest is just playing the story and deciding which side to embrace. To me, I don't see the whole point of this one. It just seems like a lot of negatives for not too many positives. Up next, we have Overtuned. I almost placed this C tier, but I'm going to place it in B tier. I think the boons for Overtuned make this a strong synergy for someone going Genetics Ascension path. I think it's easier to manage the upkeep of the organic pops, and you get 100% returns on your genetic traits. It's pretty strong, not going to lie. The fact that you can just 100% positive effects, yeah, you get 100% upkeep increase, but I think it's well worth it because all you have to do is just give them their upkeep, increase their upkeep, and you get so many more benefits. If you want to increase research, population growth, army damage, whatever you want, you can do that. I just feel like with the modifiers as well as the Overtune trait, you can get some pretty strong civilizations going on through this alone. This is a pretty strong thing. So B tier, almost A tier, but it's not as strong as some other Biosentient ones. So moving on to the Knights of the Toxic God, I got this placed at C tier. And the reason why is that I think it's a rough origin to start out with, and it's going to be challenging for most players. Negative 300 initial pops along with the toxic planetary features. You do get an orbital station. As you can see here, it's a unique orbital station, but the base habitability is only 40%, which is not good. You also have to pay a tax to the Toxic God, which takes away even more resources. However, it's balanced by the fact that you get these unique knight jobs, from these things right here. You get knights and squires and all that, and those can pay off tremendously if you play along the storyline. You get some pretty crazy boons at the end. If you can manage all the negatives, this origin could be really fun to play RP-wise, roleplay-wise, but it's also challenging. So if you were going to stick it out, I would say this can go higher on the tier list, but for most average players, I think it's C tier. Progenitor Hive, I place this B tier. I think the biggest positive to this thing is the ability to have passive experience gain. So the fact that assigned leaders gain additional passive experience is going to push your leaders or far beyond any other leaders. You also have a 10% increase in menial drone output from the offspring drones, so that's pretty good too. But I do think that the penalty here, I feel like this is a very large penalty, and I know a lot of people don't look at this penalty and say, oh, well, as long as you use the offspring oversight, you're fine. Yeah, but if you don't look at these are massive nerfs, like minus 50% fire rate, minus 50% accuracy, minus 50% evasion rate, and minus 50% sublight speed. That's huge. I think those are way too massive. So in my opinion, your best bet is to just utilize your strong leaders early on and build a tempo and snowball. Especially if you're doing like something like a Devouring Swarm, this can be pretty great, which is why I'm placing it at B tier. You just have to remember to use Offspring leading your fleet, otherwise you're just going to get hit with these massive debuffs. So if you're not using your Offspring, then you're in trouble. If you are, this is going to be really helpful. Moving on to Subterranean, I'm placing this at C tier. I would say it's probably A tier if you use a lithoid species. Otherwise, this is going to stay C tier. You get a mixture of modifiers from 75% reduced orbital bombardment, a slight increase in the infrastructure costs, upkeep, and build speed, but reduced cosmic storm devastation and housing from mining districts. You also get this cool species trait, which increases your habitability to a minimum of 50%, more minerals, increased empire size pops, and reduction in biological pop growth. So there is a good amount of negatives, but there's also a good amount of positives. Your mining districts are also uncapped, which is really nice. So this is also why it's going to stay at C tier for the most part. But again, if you play lithoid species, which you should be for this origin, it will jump probably likely to A tier. Even though the mining district says it's uncapped, keep in mind that it is ultimately hard capped by the size of your... Up next, we got Slingshot to the Stars, and I put this at D tier. And the reason why, aside from having a quick way to send your units to places, I'd rather choose another origin that gives me bonuses elsewhere. The added ship fire rate is a nice boon, so you know you can get Quantic Ambush, which is in all things considered, this is actually pretty good. 50% fire rate is no joke. So that will help you plenty for whatever skirmish that you're going to try to get into. The issue that I have here is the spread, and you can see 35 spread, which could send your fleets off course. So that means that maybe your whole fleet power isn't there where it's supposed to land. In my opinion, I don't think that this is a great origin. It's not an F tier, that's why I put it in D tier, but I'd rather have something else other than just a Quantum Catapult Twin Array, which still needs to be upgraded into a Quantum Catapult in the first place. So it's not even the final product. If this was the final product of a Quantum Catapult, it'd be a different story. But obviously they have to balance it because you can't have, mega engineering mega structure right off the bat. That'd be too crazy. I would say this would go great for anyone that's trying to rush military, because you want to have that ability to attack people wherever you want. You make the ships in your home base and then you shoot them off. It'd be pretty cool. Up next, we have Teachers of the Shroud. This locks you into the Psionic Ascension path, but if you're already going that route, might as well embrace it, right? You get bonuses to research through your species trait. You also get some cool buildings, and you can communicate with the Shroud Walker. You also get Psionic Theory, which reduces your empire size. Storyline here is cool, but I think the strong part is getting the psionic traits for your leaders. It can help so much to stack them all across your leaders, officials, scientists, commanders. But overall, I think that this is just, it's not busted, but it's still really strong in my opinion. We got Imperial Fiefdom up next, and I'm placing this at B tier. And the reason why this is B tier is, on paper, this sounds absolutely horrible. Why would you want to cripple yourself with a Liege Lord? But again, that's just on paper. If you work your agreement properly, like, you can actually get some really good bonuses. I don't know if you've ever worked with vassal agreements, but instead of paying them, they could pay you, which is crazy. Like, they could pay you basic resources like, food, energy. They can also give you advancements, or they can give you discounts on your research. And they can also give you advanced resources like alloys, or even strategic resources like Zro or rare crystals. So I would say for the casual player, this is B tier, because one, you're pretty much securing yourself as an ally of a stronger AI, but you can also get really screwed over if you don't properly leverage the advanced AI and your vassal agreement. If you're an advanced player and you know how to use vassal agreements properly and you can leverage that properly, I would put this at A tier and possibly S tier, because you can get out the agreement and you can actually vassalize them, which is great because you can't really do that in Scion, which is a fallen empire, and that's really hard to get out of in the first place. This is harder than Scion, but weaker than Scion, if that makes sense. But it has the potential to be greater than Scion from a perspective of not being outright overpowered, which is still giving you a massive resource buff. Again, if you work your agreement properly, which is rewarding in itself, and it teaches you how to play vassal agreements. It's far more interactive, and it gives you a chance to understand how all this works, especially if you're trying to vassalize other people, or if you get vassalized again by just a advanced AI. So if you know how to work this stuff, this could possibly be S tier. But for the most part, for the average player, I'm putting it at B tier. But just know that this has the potential to go very high. Up next, we got Here Be Dragons. I'm putting this at C tier. This really just depends on if you make the dragon like you or not. Look, the effect is you're inhabited by a protected sky dragon. That will become wrathful, it is displeased. If you make the dragon like you, great boons will be bestowed upon you. If you don't, we'll say goodbye to your run. That's pretty much it. So it's just, as long as you make the dragon happy, it's going to be a good run for you. Otherwise, it's not. So that's why it's C tier. It's kind of, in my opinion, too, like black and white. It's like either you piss it off or you don't. So that's pretty much it. Up next, we got Ocean Paradise, and I'm placing this at A tier. This is essentially a Gaia world start, but for water civilizations. So if you are going like a water civilization or aquatic or whatever it may be, expect to build tall, because if you read here, guaranteed habitat worlds are replaced by frozen worlds. And the reason why this is A tier is because you can terraform the frozen world. So you can eventually make it an ocean world, but until that happens, you can't really do anything. So that's what I'm saying. Just expect to play tall unless you so happen to find other oceanic worlds. I would say this is great early game, slow mid game, and then depending on how fast you can terraform and get other planets going underneath you, could be good to great late game. Up next, we have the Necrophage, and I'm just going to let you know right now, this is B tier. And I want to acknowledge that I know that people are going to beat me over the head for this one. I understand that this has snowball potential and how strong it is. However, I personally don't enjoy playing that way, and I don't play that way at all. Very military rush oriented. A vampire build if there ever was one. Imagine vampires meet alien from the, like the xenomorphs with the black head and the thing that comes out of their mouth and the face huggers and all that. You have a species trait right here. You have to use other populations to procreate your own species. You can see there's a massive nerf to your population growth and your organic population growth modifier. But there are also some great buffs here, like you get a massive leader lifespan. Not necessarily immortal. I know it says the near immortal species, but it's like 80 years. I mean, that's not a lot. But if you add in other technologies to get it up there, it can be. Also reduced food upkeep, reduced mineral, reduced energy, more output, but your worker pop resource output is less. They do give you pre-FTL civilizations, so they're kind of essentially giving you what you need in order to get this off and running. I think the species trait is cool, but you become completely dependent on taking over other species, especially from that organic pop growth hard nerf, which is why, they have the pre-FTL species in the first place, but you need to keep that ball rolling. Otherwise, you're just going to get hosed from getting outscaled, and I'm not a fan of building this way. So that's why this is B tier. And if you don't get to these pre-FTL civilizations or you choose not to do anything with them, there's really no point in playing this origin because you're just nerfing yourself with this this debuff on the organic pop growth multiplier and the growth speed. So expect to play rush military and you're taking over things a lot. Up next, we got Remnants. I'm placing this D tier. Getting a Relic World for unlocking special arcology districts is good and all, but it does take a while to get there, and that's pretty much the special thing about this origin. Aside from that, I mean, there's not really much else to this origin. There's Archaeano studies, I think I'm saying that right. Tech, which it doesn't really provide anything too meaningful. I don't know. In my opinion, this is kind of just like a boring origin, and not downright F tier, but like still just kind of like lackluster. So that's why I'd put this D tier. I'd rather just choose another origin. You might want to play this one if you're just like looking for some role play. This one, has some interesting story behind it if you actually read the things instead of rushing through it. But aside from that, I wouldn't choose this one. Shattered Ring. This is going A tier. This is a great tall build, and I will admit this really holds you back mid-game. Early game, it's great with all the bonuses, but you start getting outscaled mid-game, and unless you can make it through that slump and get to megastructure engineering to unlock the other portions of the rings into like actual ring world segments instead of shattered ring world segments, and there's a difference because you can see it says shattered ring world instead of ring world, so there's two different things, and I don't think a lot of people realize that there's two different things going on here. So the shattered ring world, has a really low habitability, at least not the homeworld one, but the other two plus the catastrophic damage section. You have to change them into ring worlds in order to even get the habitability up, and also remove all the blockers, which has a lot of cost to it. So, but if you can get past all that, I found that this origin works really well with corporate builds, since you can put holdings on other civilizations' homeworlds, and that usually involves making people around you like you, so you don't have to worry about getting attacked. And you can make up for the lack of building slots by expanding your holdings just to everyone all over the galaxy. So I will say this is a really good, almost like Gaia World start. It's not a Gaia World. Technically, this part is because it's 100% habitability, but the other two aren't necessarily there. But the other two don't have that base habitability 100%. They actually have 0%. But what really makes this is the bonuses and the production that you get just from the shattered ring segments and also turning them into ring segments. It's basically Gaia worlds. They just turn into Gaia worlds. So it's like at a certain point, it's guaranteed 4 Gaia worlds in one system, which is kind of broken. Now we got Void Dwellers. This is such an interesting origin, in my opinion. It wants you to play tall with habitats only because of the habitat preference. So you can see here, you have an 80% habitability. With habitats costing so much, though, that's ultimately going to drive your growth, because this can be a great build if you want to turtle up in only a few systems, but you're slowed down by like actually expanding your habitats. The 15% job efficiency is nice on habitats, but you do get pretty big nerfs on anything else other than non-artificial worlds. So do keep that in mind. So you're pretty much going to want to stay on habitats, but I know that there was a recent nerf to habitats, so this doesn't make this origin as great as it once was, but it's still pretty good for anyone that is looking for tall turtle builds with few systems. And with that being said, I did move this down a tier, but it's still B tier nonetheless. It's still pretty good. Up next, we have Scion, and Scion is an S tier. This is one of the few S tiers that we have on this list. Imagine Imperial Fiefdom, which was a B tier, but with training wheels and no downsides, with the small exception that you have to side with your fallen empire during the War of Heavens, which, all things considered, isn't a terrible thing, because you're pretty much getting a guaranteed like advanced civilization that is on steroids. This fallen empire will defend you if you are attacked by anyone. If they see that you're getting attacked, it'll take a few months or years, but once the fallen empire sees that you're getting attacked, they will jump to your defense, and it will open up the galaxy map so you can see the whole thing because of how strong and how much intel they have. It kind of makes the game a bit too easy, in my opinion. They also send you like free boons and free stuff and armies and fleets. So it's free resources, free advanced armies, capable hyper jump, and more. There's almost no downsides with the exception of what I said earlier, and it's super strong. It just makes the game too easy. So if you're struggling with the game, take this one. This one is going to be your ticket on beating a game, or at least getting to the final years where the crisis happens, the late game crisis happens. You're pretty much a vassal of a fallen empire, and that's kind of locking you into a path it's hard to get out of, especially a fallen empire, because you're not going to be able to scale out a fallen empire until late game anyways. So even if you wanted to break out of it, you can't really do so until late game anyways. Up next, on the Shoulders of Giants, C tier. You get a bunch of dig sites that you have to work through, and you get some event chain blocks until your mystery is resolved. That's kind of around mid-game. It's great for getting like random texts, minor artifacts, and it's a gamble as to what you get. So I think that's why it's C tier. I mean, this is pretty much it. You get these archaeological sites, but you also have an event chain blocked until you get your mystery resolved. So it's more role play than anything, and the boons that you get are just random. Common Ground, I'm placing this D tier, and hear me out. This allows you to start as a leader of a federation of your choice that's not a homogeny. This could be decent if you want to turtle up and let your allies work on military while you can leverage being more diplomatic. Or maybe you want to do the research cooperative route and have everyone contribute to research and scale out that way. In either case, I don't particularly find this one strong because your habitable worlds are replaced with Federation members. So you can't really spread out, and you're kind of surrounded by them anyways. So that's why I'm saying you kind of have to like turtle up in this sense. You're kind of forced to build tall in this one. I think that Megacorps would likely benefit from this one just because you're forced to stay in one area unless you're able to somehow build up enough influence that you could jump over someone, or you get lucky and you're not completely surrounded by your Federation. Up next, we got Hegemon. I'm placing this A tier. And the reason why I'm placing it A tier is there's a reason they separate Common Ground from Hegemonies. And it's because Hegemonies are so strong, and being the leader of one is really strong. However, holding on to that power is the tricky part of this origin. If you can hold on to that power, great, but just know that while you're the leader, that could change at any moment. And so if you're good at maintaining the leadership, this is a great pick, especially at level 1. Members can't leave, which means you're solidifying your allies. This origin guarantees allies, in a sense, buffers to other empires. But it still does suffer from the same thing that Common Ground does suffer from. Building tall, turtling up, unless you get lucky that you can jump over one of the other Federation members, or you get lucky with your spawn that you're not surrounded by them. But the way the game works, usually you're kind of surrounded anyway. So just something to keep in mind. Doomsday, straight up F tier. It even says challenging origin. You have a Doomsday planetary modifier. So this, you can see you have a bunch of great modifiers, but your planet's going to explode in 35 to 45 years. And so while you do have great modifiers that scale over time, it's not, you can see here, modifiers will increase over time to a maximum of 120. It's not starting at 120. If it was starting at 120, that might be different, but it's not. But here you can see stability is negative 30, immigration pull is negative 50%, and habitability is minus 90%. Very bad nerfs for modifiers or for some buffs. And here's another thing too. Guaranteed habitable planets or worlds are not spawned. So where are you supposed to go? And in a sense, you basically have to find another place that's probably under the control of another civilization. So you're forced to take over someone else's spot. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because what are they providing you here? They're providing you alloys, minerals, and energy credits, all of which are very military oriented. So it does make sense on why they're trying to do this. I would only play this if you're really looking for a challenge, or if you're, you just want something different going on. But I wouldn't recommend this to most people. This is a challenging origin. Up next, we have Calamitous Birth. And this is an A tier. And the reason why I'm saying it's an A tier is that it only makes sense if you go lithoid species. Anything else, and this is an F tier. All of the boons and buffs are specifically for lithoids. You can even see here the effects of lithoid traits are plus 50%. That's huge. That's a massive amount. Your max districts are increased by 6, as well as your max mining districts, but you do get a nerf to your agricultural districts, but a very large boost to your population growth speed. All the boons and buffs are centered around being a lithoid, and you also get a habitability for non-lithoid pops minus 50%. You can use lithoid meteorites to colonize other planets, which will give you this, the buried lithoids, which once you clear it, you get more populations, but it does take minerals to clear that. You can also put this on your subjects under the holdings, but incoming colony ships may explode. That's kind of a big deal, so I guess maybe don't consider putting an experimental crater on your subjects. Life Seeded is a B tier, and the reason why I'm placing this in a B tier, which is technically lower than an Ocean Paradise, which by all means is technically not a Gaia World star, even though this one is, because it even says Gaia World, because there's a penalty for habitats that are not spawned in. You don't get any habitable worlds. To me, that moves it down a tier. If there was other habitable worlds that you can get, great. But this, it's pretty much a Shattered Ring, minus the ability to expand out. And same thing for Ocean Paradise. At least with the frozen worlds, you can work on them and terraform them later. But in this case, you get nothing in terms of habitable worlds nearby. And also, your world preference turns into Gaia World, which makes it all but certain that you'll likely not find anything in your civilizations likely, given how rare Gaia Worlds are, unless you can get the Ascension perk that allows you to turn things into Gaia Worlds. But that's not until late game anyways. So this is a nice boon. You do get some modifiers here, especially on the home world. Your habitability is obviously 100%, more resources, more happiness, automatic resettlement destination chance. But then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, yes, this is nice, but like, why wouldn't you place something else like Shattered Ring or Ocean Paradise? Both have much better options for expanding. So in this one, I would expect to play tall. Great early game, but starts falling off mid game. But if you can get the Terraforming Ascension perk for Gaia Worlds, it will be great late game, but you will likely get outscaled if you don't reach that point quickly enough. Post-Apocalyptic. So I'm placing this one F tier. And you're probably wondering, well, why F tier? I mean, all you get is a tomb world, and your habitability is 70% instead of the base 80%. Yes, your leaders get a 10% lifespan increase, but I just don't see the benefit of this one unless you want to challenge yourself. there's not really too much to this origin, aside from, you know, figuring out, you know, your origin story, but it's, I don't know. To me, it's just, I'd rather choose other things. This doesn't really give me too much in terms of boons. It's pretty much just role playing, and that's pretty much it. Up next, we got the Clone Army. This is a C tier. This is a good military origin, but you need to play it correctly. You can see here, you start off with these ancient clone vats, which give more organic pop growth. You also get the Clone Soldier, and you also get these 2 starting techs. You have to rush military for this to be effective, otherwise you are going to get outscaled. You are going to want to be fighting early game in order to take other civilizations and abduct them and increase your population. This is the only way you can combat the can't reproduce naturally debuff right here under Clone Soldier. So also your leader lifespan is minus 50 or minus 40. Yes, you do get a 50% army damage increase, but I never found army damage to be terribly helpful. It's always been like, well, I could just build more armies and, you know, cover up the army damage missing. So that's why I'm placing the C tier. It's not great, but it's, you know, decent if you are looking for a army-based military civilization. Resource Consolidation is also a C tier. I imagine that this is pretty much the Gaia Start world for machines. You could see for your machine world here, you do get more resources from your jobs, you know, less housing population and more resettlement. You also get a flat 25 minerals, which is pretty nice. And if you have the Driven Simulator Civic, which by all means, you know, feel free, you get an organic slurry, which is just an ocean of organic slurry from the processed remains of the former biomass of this planet, which is kind of sad if you think about it. The penalties are similar to other Gaia world starts, with your habitable planets are replaced with molten worlds and barren worlds. I rank this lower than other Gaia world starts because the planet size isn't guaranteed to be 30, which can limit the size of your districts. So if this was a guaranteed 30, I think it would be at least B tier. But since it's not, I'm putting it C tier. Yes, you can change these later on. You could terraform these, but it's just going to slow you down early and mid game. So up next we have the Hard Reset. I'm placing a C tier. I know this is labeled as a challenging origin, but the Cyber Commandos and Unplugged are probably the only downside. So if you see here, we do have a life leader span minus 20. Happiness is decreased when not in a war crisis, and your pop amenities usage is +1. You also get more army damage, but less population growth speed. Also, your happiness is increased in wars and crisis, as well as providing a higher ship fire rate. So what does that mean? If you're in a war, this is a great thing. So you're going to want to be military oriented with this thing, because one, you'll get increase in happiness, because you'll actually increase it to 30% instead of minus 10%, which is a 40% increase overall. So you can see here, you're minus 10% when not in a war, but your happiness goes to 30% plus if you are in a war. So that means you get a 40% increase overall. I do think it's nice that you do get like a limited access to cybernetic traits without actually having to go down the cybernetic route. Although you might as well go down that route anyways if you're going this, but if you feel like you want to expand out, you know, feel free. You also get increased army damage, which is more than the clone army. Keep that in mind. But also, you know, there's some downsides to this one as compared to the clone army. You do get a nice planetary modifier, but that only lasts for 10 years. You also get an archaeology site. Mechanist. I am placing this at A tier. I don't see any downsides to this origin. I only see positives. We have robot population. We have adaptive frames, which means you're more efficient at your work. You also get the robot assembly plant, which gives you more robots. Powered exoskeleton tech, artificial workforce tech. You also get this guaranteed research option, and you get these modifiers here, which are pretty nice. You know, plus 15 pop assembly speed, more species trait picks, and more modification points. This is just a great all-around robot build, and it's perfect if you want to go like synthetic ascension or perhaps even cybernetics. What you do with that is up to you. Syncretic Evolution, A tier. All things considered, a 1.2k population boost is huge. Yes, they can't be in leaders or employed in elite or specialist jobs because they're servile, but you still have a massive need for workers and menial jobs, which a servile pop can utilize. They also have a happiness and efficiency bonus, as you can see here, 10% happiness and 10% efficiency, which I know isn't as strong on paper as other origins in the A tier list, but what makes this an A tier is the flexibility of it all. You can pivot into so many different builds with this, and there's no downsides. So if you wanted to go, different ascension paths or different traits or, different types of government origins, whatever, this is just a very flexible one, and that's why I place this A tier. Up next, we have the Tree of Life. This is a B tier, and I really like the population growth speed increase. The nerf doesn't seem too bad, in my opinion, if you don't have a no Tree of Life. Minus 50% build speed, 25% resources from jobs, 10% upkeep from jobs, and minus 5 stability. You can easily fix that just by doing a low-cost fix to add a Tree of Life sapling. It's not that big of a deal. You do get some pretty great buffs to it. I mean, you get a population growth speed increase of 10%, more society research, you get housing, you do get more agricultural districts, but there is an upkeep of 2 food, which, all things considered, is not a big deal, especially all the other things that you can get from it. It's not the best origin build, but it's solid. Just has that unique thing of like, oh, you need to put a Tree of Life sapling on every colonized planet that you come across. Fruitful Partnership is a B tier. I find this origin to be fun because you could spread your seeds across the galaxy through space fauna like Tianki, similar like how a bird would spread seed from like eating fruit. You can colonize planets across the galaxy if they have your seed pod, no matter the distance. I do find that interesting, but there are some downsides to that. I also think that the invasive flora is also a really interesting thing too, where you can spawn armies on someone's planet. You could summon an army to appear on the planet during a war. So, in addition to the other things too, like food and society research and all that. However, the reason why I didn't rate this higher is because even though you can get random planets across the galaxy, I'm not sure how good it's going to be if you can't defend them properly. And this is also a way to increase border friction with a bunch of people, and you could ruin your standing with a lot of people. Like if you upset like a lot of people, that's not going to be good for you, and people are going to be waging a war to take over the planet that you had a seat on. So just something to keep in mind. That's why it's not higher, but it's not lower either. Galactic Doorstep. I'm putting this F tier. I personally don't see why this is even a thing. It just has a gateway in your system, and the modifiers are to lower build cost and increase build speed. Aside from that, nothing. Like literally nothing. So a pretty weak origin, and the payoff for what's on the other side is a complete gamble. So F tier. I wouldn't take this one. Just kind of roleplay. Could be very boring. So up next, we have the Lost Colony. This is a D tier. I would say this is more for the roleplay aspect than anything else. The starting modifier is good for the colonial spirit. It only applies to your one planet. If you want to find the advanced AI that has the same species as you and play out the story from there, again, great role-playing origin. Decent starting buffs, but nothing worthwhile, and it's just a bit underwhelming. And you also have a penalty that your starting planet is not even your Empire's home. So these last 3 here, as you can see, I don't own the DLC. I don't own Biogenesis. So this is not coming from a place of experience, but rather me just giving my inputs on my impressions on reading these things here. So Evolutionary Predators, funny enough, is a S tier, in my opinion. Based off what I'm seeing, it's an S tier. You get massive amounts of positive traits for your species, and this would make a civilization pretty overpowered, as there's a reason why they have point costs. It's just a better form of the genetics ascension, in my opinion. The fact that you could just choose different traits whenever you see fit is pretty good. You can add like a massive amount of genes, and I think I've seen people just take almost all the traits, like all the organic species traits that are positive, and pretty much just have like a really strong species. That's why I'm putting this at such a high tier. I think this is S tier. Up next, we have the Starlit Citadel. really like the idea of this origin. I enjoy tower defense games, and this is pretty much that, except it's inside your own system. I will say that the fights might take away your other duties, but for such a unique idea and a powerful starbase, I'm placing it at A tier. You do get the Deep Space Citadel, which is one of the first 3 stages of the Deep Space Citadel that get the level 1. And you get the Strange Portal, or it's just going to be bringing a bunch of aliens into your system to attack you, which is like a tower defense. And lastly, for Wilderness, honestly, I don't really know where to place this, because like if you look at these things, minus 200% havability, that's pretty crazy. And it's mainly meant for the like rare planets, but still, I'm not really sure where this places, because I would have to see how this plays out, because you have like this new resource, species trait wilderness, and then all your things are changed with bespoke ones. So I just don't know where this goes. So if I had to place it, I'd probably place it C tier right now, because that's probably neutral. It could probably have the potential to be good, but right now I'm just too unsure about this one. And so there you have it. That is all we have for the Origins tier list. I hope this helped you, and if you like this video, greatly appreciate a like. And if you want to see more content like this, or if you just want to support me, I greatly appreciate subscribe. Adding subscribers is probably the biggest thing that would help me right now, trying to push for higher numbers. And so, and as always, I'll see you next time, and I hope you have a good one.